Hello, phenomenal story lovers. Get ready for a tale that intertwines fate, hidden truths, and a love that blooms in the most unexpected places. This narrative will make you believe that kindness is a currency more valuable than gold. Before we embark on this incredible journey, tell us in the comments what city you're watching from. And if you believe that genuine connection can bridge any gap, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful, heartfelt stories. Your support means the world to us. "Are you all right, madam?" Amelia asked, kneeling beside the elderly woman's wheelchair. "I've seen you here alone for several minutes." The older woman looked up, her eyes clouded by suppressed tears. "My caregiver went to find help half an hour ago and hasn't returned. My flight leaves in 20 minutes, and I can't move alone." Amelia took the wrinkled hands in hers, ignoring the final boarding calls for her own flight echoing through the loudspeakers of London Heathrow International Airport. "My name is Amelia Brown. Don't worry, I won't leave you alone." A few meters away, a man in a dark suit observed the scene while talking on the phone, his travel bag by his side. Alexander Sterling had planned to surprise his mother at the airport, but an urgent business call had delayed him. Now he watched as a stranger did what he should have been doing. Amelia was a social worker from Liverpool, England. At 28, she had already seen enough suffering to recognize it in others' eyes. She was traveling to an international conference on community development, an opportunity she had been waiting for years. "What's your name?" she asked softly. "Eleanor Sterling," the elderly woman replied, squeezing Amelia's hands. "My son Alexander should be here, but he's always busy with his business." Amelia looked around for an airport employee. Her own flight was about to depart. "I'll help you find your caregiver and make sure you board your flight, okay?" Alexander ended his call and discreetly approached without intervening. Something in the young woman's sincerity stopped him. He watched her talk to airport staff, review his mother's documents, and finally locate the lost caregiver. When the situation was finally resolved, Amelia looked at her watch and sighed. She had missed her flight. "Thank you, my dear," Eleanor said, still holding Amelia's hands. "You're an angel." "It's nothing, Mrs. Sterling. I'm glad I could help." Alexander watched the young woman walk away towards the airline counter. He noticed her passenger ID hanging from her bag and, discreetly, took a photo with his phone. Then he finally approached his mother. "Mom, sorry I'm late." "Alexander, an angel appeared to help me while you were on the phone," Eleanor replied reproachfully. Hours later, already on her rescheduled flight, Amelia opened her bag to look for a book. Among her things, she found something she hadn't put there, an antique silver brooch with precious stones. Next to it, a note written in a trembling hand. "For the angel who showed kindness to a stranger, may this bring you the same luck it brought me in life. With love, Eleanor S." Amelia held the brooch up to the light. It looked very valuable, too valuable to accept from a stranger. But the plane had already taken off, and she had no way to return it. The conference in London turned out to be a success. Amelia presented her innovative ideas on community development, earning the respect of international representatives. Throughout her stay, the brooch remained tucked away in her suitcase, a constant reminder of a fleeting encounter that somehow seemed important. 3 months later, back in Liverpool, Amelia's life returned to its routine. She grew up in a broken home, with an absent father and a mother who worked multiple shifts. This reality spurred her to become a social worker, dedicated to creating the support spaces she herself had needed as a child. Her community center in one of Liverpool's most vulnerable neighborhoods was her pride, though they constantly struggled to secure funding. That morning, her boss called an urgent meeting. Amelia rushed in, her wavy brown hair hastily tied back. "I have news," announced Richard, the center's director. A London-based company wants to expand its social responsibility programs to the UK. Sterling Developments, Richard continued. It seems the founder's son will personally visit to learn about our work. Amelia listened cautiously. Large companies usually sought only publicity, not genuine commitment. When is he coming? She asked. Next week, Richard replied. And Amelia, I want you in charge of presenting our projects to him. After your presentation in London, you're our best asset. That night, as Amelia reviewed the center's projects, her hand involuntarily touched the brooch hidden in a drawer of her modest apartment. For some unknown reason, she felt something important was about to happen. The imposing building of the Hope Community Center contrasted with the humble neighborhood surrounding it. Amelia walked through the hallways, adjusting details for the visit of the London businessman. Sarah, did you put up the photos of the urban garden project? Amelia asked her best friend and colleague. Is everything ready? But I still don't understand why you're so nervous. He's just another businessman who wants to clean up his image, Sarah replied as she arranged chairs. We need the funding. The children in the after-school program depend on us. The main door opened. Richard entered, accompanied by a tall man dressed in an impeccable suit. Amelia instantly froze. It was the same man she had briefly seen at the airport months ago. I'd like to introduce Alexander Sterling, CEO of Sterling Developments, Richard announced. Alexander extended his hand to Amelia, his face perfectly composed, showing no sign of recognition. Miss Brown, I've heard a lot about your work. Amelia shook his hand, disconcerted. Didn't he remember her from the airport? Welcome to our center, Mr. Sterling. I hope our projects are of interest to you. During the presentation, Amelia explained each initiative with passion. Alexander listened attentively, asking precise questions that revealed a surprising knowledge of community development. Your focus on strengthening local capacities instead of creating dependencies seems extraordinary to me, Alexander commented at the end of the tour. It's the only way to create sustainable change, Amelia replied, still cautious. At the end of the day, Alexander requested a private meeting with Amelia. In the small office she shared with 3 other workers, the tension was palpable. Ms. Brown, I'll be direct. I want Sterling Developments to fund your projects for the next 3 years, with the possibility of extension. Amelia stared at him. Why? There are larger organizations, with greater media visibility. Alexander smiled slightly. Precisely for that reason. We don't seek easy publicity, but real impact. Meanwhile, in London, Eleanor Sterling was having tea in her elegant living room. Her caregiver, Louise, was with her. Have you heard from your son, Mrs. Sterling? Alexander has been in Liverpool for a week. He says it's for business, but he sounds different on our calls. Eleanor caressed an empty space in her jewelry box, where the brooch she gave to that young woman at the airport used to be. I always tell him about my airport angel, that girl who helped me when he was busy with his calls. I wish I could thank her properly. Back in Liverpool, Alexander extended his initial 3-day stay to 2 weeks. Every morning he visited the community center with new ideas or questions. I need to fully understand how your programs work before designing the funding plan, he explained to Richard, though his eyes always sought Amelia. One afternoon, while reviewing the budget for the job training program, Amelia confronted Alexander. Mr. Sterling, why don't you mention that we met at London Heathrow Airport 3 months ago? Alexander placed the documents on the table, surprised by the direct question. I was waiting for the right moment. I didn't want you to think that our collaboration had personal motives. And does it? Amelia asked. I admire what I saw that day. Someone who sacrificed her own interests to help a stranger. That kind of value is exactly what I look for in our community partners. That night, Amelia shared the situation with Sarah in her small apartment. I don't know if I can trust him, Sarah. It's too much of a coincidence. Amelia, You've spent years fighting for funding for your ideas. If this handsome millionaire wants to support them, what does it matter how he found you? Sarah questioned. I don't like feeling like he's not telling me something. Days turned into weeks. Alexander canceled his return to London for the third time. He began inviting Amelia to working lunches that inevitably extended, discussing much more than community projects. My father built the Sterling Empire from scratch, Alexander told Amelia during a dinner. But he was never present at home. My mother was both father and mother to me. My father left us when I was 6, Amelia confessed, surprised by her own openness. My mother worked day and night. Community organizations were my second family. As time passed, Alexander began to accompany Amelia on her visits to the communities. He would take off his jacket, roll up his sleeves, and participate in activities with children and the elderly. I had never seen this side of life, he admitted one day, while helping to build an urban garden. In my world, problems are solved with money. Money helps, but real solutions require time, presence, and commitment, Amelia replied. During a video call with his mother, Alexander casually mentioned Amelia's name. Eleanor straightened in her chair. Amelia? What's she like? Passionate, intelligent, committed to her community. Different from anyone I've ever met. Eleanor smiled mysteriously. She sounds like someone special. I'd like to meet her someday. Alexander was silent for a moment. Perhaps you already know her, Mum. 6 months into their collaboration, the joint projects between the Hope Community Center and Sterling Developments showed impressive results. The model was being replicated in 3 other neighborhoods in Liverpool. Richard called Amelia into his office. Whatever you're doing with Mr. Sterling, keep doing it. We've never had such a committed sponsor. Amelia felt her cheeks burn. We're just colleagues, Richard. But that night, as she reviewed the preparations for the community festival that would celebrate the semester's achievements, Amelia admitted to herself that her feelings for Alexander had crossed the professional line. And what scared her most was the growing suspicion that he felt the same way. The sun was setting over the neighborhood square as Amelia oversaw the final preparations for the community festival. Colorful banners announced Spring Celebration Hope Project. The food tent needs more tables, Sarah informed her, approaching with a to-do list. I'll talk to Mr. Green about lending us some from his restaurant, Amelia replied distractedly. That won't be necessary, a familiar voice interrupted. Alexander appeared carrying 2 folding tables. I just bought 10 more for the center. They're on their way. Sarah looked at Amelia with a knowing smile and discreetly walked away. Over the past few months, Alexander's presence had become constant at the center and in Amelia's life. You didn't have to, Amelia said, as they arranged the tables together. I wanted to. This festival is as important to you as it is to me. Their hands brushed briefly as they laid a tablecloth. Amelia felt that familiar tingling sensation she tried to ignore for professionalism's sake. The festival was the culmination of 6 months of joint work. The community gardens produced food for local families. The job training program had employed 20 people, and the new children's space offered after-school support to over 80 students. That night, as music filled the square and entire families enjoyed the celebration, Alexander and Amelia found themselves observing everything from a quiet corner. You know, Alexander confessed, when my father died 5 years ago, he left me a business empire, but no guidance on how to use it for something meaningful. And yet here you are, eating corn on the cob. In a neighborhood most of your colleagues would never visit. Alexander chuckled softly. Thanks to you. You showed me a world that existed right in front of my eyes, but that I had never truly seen. The sky lit up with the first fireworks. The entire community looked up, faces illuminated by explosions of color. Alexander looked at Amelia, her profile bathed in changing lights. Without thinking, she turned her face towards him. Their gazes met, and in a mutual impulse, their lips did too. The kiss was brief, almost shy, but laden with feelings accumulated over months. When they separated, Amelia took a step back, surprised by what had just happened. "Alexander, this is complicated. We work together." "I know, and I'll respect whatever you decide." The following days passed in a bubble of confused emotions. Professionally, their relationship remained impeccable. Personally, they shared prolonged glances and conversations that stretched late into the night. 2 weeks after the festival, Alexander invited Amelia to dinner at a small restaurant upward from the city center, where no one would know them. "I want you to meet my mother," he suddenly said, as they shared a dessert. "There's a charity gala in London next month. I'd like you to accompany me." Amelia put her spoon on the table. "Alexander, have you thought about how complicated that would be? We come from completely different worlds." "Precisely why it works. You teach me to see reality beyond my privileged bubble, and I can offer you resources to make your most ambitious projects a reality. I don't want people to think I'm with you for money or influence." Alexander gently took her hand. "No one who knows you would ever think that." Finally, Amelia accepted. Their relationship continued to develop discreetly. For the center's staff, it was clear that something had changed, but they respected their privacy. In London, Eleanor noticed changes in her calls with her son. "You sound different, Alexander. Happier." "I am, Mom. I'm learning a lot in Liverpool. Only about community projects?" Eleanor asked shrewdly. Alexander smiled into the phone. "You'll meet her soon. She's coming with me to the Foundation's gala. Is she the social worker you talk so much about?" "Yes. I think you'll love her." Eleanor smiled to herself. Her maternal instinct told her that this was not a passing relationship like others her son had had. As the travel date approached, Amelia's anxiety increased. One night, as Alexander accompanied her to her apartment, she stopped at the door. "I'm scared, Alexander. I don't know anything about charity galas or how to behave in your world." Alexander looked at her tenderly. "You don't need to pretend to be someone else. My mother just wants to meet the woman who has made her son so happy. And if she doesn't like you, impossible. She has a sixth sense for recognizing genuine people." Amelia hadn't told Alexander about the brooch. She kept it as a secret, a personal treasure that somehow connected her to that elderly woman she had helped. The day before the trip, Sarah helped Amelia pack her suitcase. "This dress is perfect for the gala," Sarah said, showing her an elegant black dress they had found in a second-hand shop. "Simple, but sophisticated. I feel like an imposter, Sarah. His family has centuries of wealth, and I come from a neighborhood like this. Precisely why you are exactly what he needs, someone real in a world of appearances." The morning of the trip, Alexander picked her up in a chauffeur-driven car. During the first-class flight, Amelia barely touched the food. "My mother lives in the family house in Kensington," Alexander explained, as the plane began its descent. "It's large, but welcoming. She insisted we stay there instead of a hotel. Have you told her about us?" "I've told her you're very special to me. The rest she wants to discover herself." The car that picked them up at the airport drove through the elegant streets of one of London's most exclusive neighborhoods. Finally, it stopped in front of a modern colonial-style mansion. "We're here," Alexander announced, gently squeezing Amelia's hand. "Don't worry, she'll love you." What neither of them could imagine was that this encounter would reveal a connection that would forever change the course of their relationship. The Sterling mansion was imposing yet warm, with a lush garden and a carved stone entrance. Amelia took a deep breath as Alexander opened the door. "Alexander, son, you're finally here." A familiar voice resonated from inside. Amelia froze in the doorway. In the elegant living room, sitting in a wheelchair, was the same elderly woman she had helped at the airport months ago. "Mom, I want to introduce you to Amelia Brown, the project director of the community center in Liverpool," Alexander said, not noticing the shock on both women's faces. Eleanor stared at Amelia, her eyes widening with astonishment and recognition. "My goodness, it's you, my airport angel!" Eleanor exclaimed, extending her arms. Alexander looked confusedly at his mother, and then at Amelia. "You two know each other?" Amelia slowly advanced, kneeling beside Eleanor's chair, just as she had done that day at the airport. "Mrs. Sterling, what a surprise to find you like this." Eleanor took Amelia's hands in hers, tears in her eyes. "Alexander, do you remember the young woman who helped me when I was left alone at the airport? It's her. I've told you so much about my guardian angel." Alexander paled, looking alternately at his mother and Amelia. "Mom, Yes, I remember her." Amelia slowly stood up, connecting all the pieces. "That's why you looked for me for the project. Because of what happened at the airport, dinner was tense." Eleanor, oblivious to the discomfort, excitedly recounted how Amelia had helped her when she was lost and scared. "Without her, I would have missed my flight, and she missed hers to help me." Amelia barely touched her food, processing the revelation. Alexander tried to keep the conversation going, but his eyes constantly sought Amelia's, pleading for a chance to explain himself. When Eleanor retired to rest, Alexander and Amelia were left alone in the garden. "You were right," Amelia finally said. "Your mother recognizes genuine people. What I don't understand is why you weren't genuine with me." "I'm sorry, Amelia. I should have told you from the beginning. Why didn't you?" Alexander sighed deeply. "When I saw you helping my mother, I felt ashamed. I should have been there for her, not a stranger. I took a photo of your ID, thinking of thanking you somehow. And then, I researched who you were. When I discovered your work, I was genuinely impressed. The project in the UK was already planned, but I asked to oversee it personally to get to know you." Amelia stood up, crossing her arms. "So, all this time, while I thought you valued our work, you were just paying a debt of gratitude." "No, Amelia. That might have been true at first, but what happened afterward, what we built together, what I feel for you, all of that is real." On the day of the gala, Amelia kept up appearances out of courtesy to Eleanor, who didn't understand the sudden coolness between her and Alexander. During the event, while Alexander attended to other guests, Eleanor approached Amelia. "The brooch I gave you, do you still have it?" Amelia nodded, feeling a lump in her throat. "I always carry it with me, though I never wear it. It's too valuable. That brooch has a story that I will tell you someday. It's no coincidence that it ended up in your hands." The next morning, Amelia announced she would return to Liverpool immediately. "But the museum gala is tomorrow," Eleanor protested. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Sterling. An emergency arose at the center," Amelia lied, unable to face the situation any longer. At the airport, Alexander made one last attempt. "Please, Amelia, give me a chance to explain everything." "You already explained it, Alexander. You started all this because of a debt, not because you believed in our work. That's not fair. I've proven my commitment to every project. But you weren't honest with me. You built our relationship on a lie. It wasn't a lie. It was an omission. I was afraid you would think exactly what you are thinking now." Amelia took her ticket. "I need time to think." Back in Liverpool, Amelia immersed herself in work, avoiding talking about Alexander. The funding continued, but now all communications went through Richard. Sarah tried to cheer her up. "At least tell me what happened in London. You came back like a ghost." Amelia finally gave in and explained the situation. "Do you understand now? All this time I thought he really valued our work, that he saw me as a colleague, perhaps something more. But it all started because I helped his mother. And does that invalidate what you built later? Sarah questioned. People meet in strange ways, Amelia. The important thing is what happens next. Months passed. Alexander's physical absence was noticeable, but his influence persisted in every funded project, in every new initiative approved without question. Richard entered Amelia's office one day with news. Sterling Developments has doubled the budget for the job training program. They say the results exceeded their expectations. Amelia nodded, maintaining her professional expression. It's good to know they remain committed to the project. They also sent this for you, personally, Richard added, handing her an envelope. Inside was a formal invitation to participate as a keynote speaker at the International Congress of Social Innovation in London, the same one she had attended a year ago. And along with the invitation, a handwritten note. Some encounters change our lives forever, even if we don't know it at the time. Whatever your decision, I'm proud of the work we've achieved together. Alexander. That night, Amelia took the brooch from its hiding place and examined it in the light. For the first time, she wondered if she should listen to the story Eleanor wanted to tell her. A week after receiving the invitation, Amelia found an additional envelope in her mail. The stamp was from London, and the sender was Eleanor Sterling. With trembling hands, she opened it to find a handwritten letter. Dear Amelia, since your abrupt departure from our home, I've wanted to contact you. Alexander didn't tell me all the details, but I understand there was a misunderstanding about how you met. Allow me to tell you a story. I wasn't born into wealth as many believe. I come from a small village in Cornwall where my family barely had enough to eat. At 18, I came to the capital looking for work, like many young women. One day, while cleaning at the bus terminal, I saw an elderly woman faint. Everyone passed by without stopping. I left my job to help her, losing my employment that same day. That woman was Mrs. Thompson, the mother of who would later become my husband. Before saying goodbye, she gave me the same brooch you now possess, telling me it belonged to women with pure hearts who crossed paths with the Sterlings. My son is like his father, brilliant in business but clumsy with words when his feelings run deep. If he continued to look for you after the airport, it wasn't out of obligation, but because he saw in you what I also saw, a genuine soul in a world of appearances. The decision to return is yours, but you should know that this brooch has always found its rightful owner. With love, Eleanor. Amelia let the letter fall onto the table, overwhelmed. She picked up the brooch again, seeing it now with different eyes. Meanwhile, in London, Alexander found himself in an unusual situation. For the first time in his adult life, he was attending a training course, surrounded not by executives, but by social workers and community volunteers. A welfare approach perpetuates dependency. We must create programs that develop autonomy, the instructor explained. Alexander took detailed notes, recalling Amelia's words months ago. Beside him, several Sterling Developments employees seemed equally focused. Upon leaving, his assistant was waiting for him. Mr. Sterling, you have 3 pending calls from investors, and the board requests your presence for tomorrow's vote. Cancel the calls. The vote can wait. I have to finish the report on the community development model we're implementing. The assistant looked at him surprised, but nodded. That night, Alexander had dinner with his mother on the family terrace. Did you send her the letter? He asked bluntly. Eleanor smiled slightly. A week ago. Some truths need time to be processed. You shouldn't have intervened, Mom. When you reach my age, you'll understand that life is too short to let pride or misunderstanding separate people who belong together. Alexander looked out at the garden. I've respected her by giving her space, but every day, I know, son. It's like when your father and I separated those months before we got married. Sometimes distance clarifies what truly matters. In Liverpool, Amelia finalized preparations for the conference. She had decided to attend, not only for the professional opportunity, but to close a personal chapter. The night before her trip, Sarah helped her prepare her presentation. "Have you decided if you'll talk to him?" she asked as they reviewed the slides. "First, I want to hear what Eleanor promised to tell me about the brooch after, I don't know." "Amelia, in the 6 months since you returned from London, have you met anyone who makes you feel the way he did?" Amelia was silent. Both knew the answer. The flight to London was a whirlwind of emotions. Upon landing, Amelia half expected to see Alexander waiting for her, but the airport was full of strangers. She checked into the conference hotel and found an envelope at the reception. Inside, a brief note. "When you're ready to hear the full story, I'll be waiting. Eleanor." Next to the note, an address that wasn't the Sterling mansion. That afternoon, gathering her courage, Amelia took a taxi to the indicated address. It was a simple cafe in a traditional neighborhood, far from the exclusive areas. Upon entering, she saw Eleanor at a corner table, not in her wheelchair. "I usually only need it for long distances," Eleanor explained, noticing her surprise. "I'm so glad you came." Amelia sat opposite her. "Your letter made me think a lot. This place," Eleanor gestured around, "is where I worked as a waitress after losing my job at the terminal. And it was here that George Sterling first came in, looking for the woman who had helped his mother." "Like Alexander looked for me," Amelia murmured. "The Sterling men are predictable," Eleanor smiled. "George came every day, sitting at that table, ordering only coffee. I ignored him, convinced that a rich man only sought to take advantage of a poor girl. What made her change her mind? I found him one Sunday helping at a community soup kitchen, without his jacket or tie, serving soup to the homeless. Not to impress me. He didn't even know I would be there. He was learning about a world he didn't know." Amelia felt a lump in her throat, remembering Alexander rolling up his sleeves to work in the community gardens. "The brooch," Eleanor continued, "has passed from woman to woman in the family, not by blood, but by heart. Mrs. Thompson gave it to me. I gave it to you. But I am not part of your family." Amelia took her hands, her eyes bright. "The brooch always knows who it belongs to, before we ourselves know it." That night, in her hotel room, Amelia held the brooch up to the light. For the first time, she pinned it to her blouse, feeling a strange sense of belonging. The next day, she presented her lecture on innovation in community development. Her voice was firm, her ideas clear. When she finished, she received a standing ovation. As she gathered her notes, she noticed a familiar figure at the back of the room. Alexander was there, without a suit, wearing jeans and a simple shirt. Their gazes met briefly before she continued her speech. At the subsequent reception, Amelia was approached by numerous organizations interested in implementing her model. When she finally managed a moment alone, she felt a familiar presence. "Congratulations. You deserve it more than anyone," Alexander said, maintaining a respectful distance. "All of this was your doing?" Amelia asked. "The nomination came from an independent committee of experts. I just shared the documentation of our projects with them. Your work spoke for itself." Amelia noticed the changes in him. His posture was less rigid, his clothes simpler, his eyes warmer, but also wiser. "They've offered to expand the model to 10 more countries," she commented. "I know. The Sterling Foundation is ready to support, without conditions or prominence." Silence fell, not uncomfortable as before, but expectant. "I've been receiving your notes," Amelia finally said, "and following your work. I didn't expect a reply. I just wanted you to know that your teachings were not in vain." Amelia touched the brooch on her dress. "Your mother keeps writing to me. She's told me the whole family history. She's persistent when she believes in something. Alexander smiled. She told me you resigned as CEO of the company. I needed to find my own path, not just follow the family legacy. I think I finally understand what you were trying to teach me from the beginning. Before Amelia could reply, they were interrupted by a group of reporters wanting to interview the winner. Alexander discreetly stepped aside, giving her space. Later that night, Amelia found a note in her bag. If you're ready for a cup of coffee, I'll be at the hotel cafe at 9 a.m. No pressure, no expectations. Just two colleagues sharing experiences. A. The next morning, the cafe was almost empty when Amelia entered exactly at 9. Alexander was sitting at a back table with 2 cups of coffee in front of him. I wasn't sure you'd come, he said when she sat down. Neither was I, Amelia replied with a small smile. You know, in all this time I learned something important. What began as a casual encounter at an airport led both of us exactly where we needed to be, even if it wasn't together. Amelia took a sip of coffee, considering his words. Perhaps the destiny of some people is to cross paths to change the direction of their lives, even if they later take separate paths. Alexander nodded, with a mix of acceptance and melancholy in his gaze. I just want you to know that the year we shared in Liverpool completely transformed my vision of the world and my purpose. For that, I will always be grateful to you. Amelia extended her hand across the table, lightly touching his. Perhaps our paths don't have to remain separate forever. 1 year later, London Heathrow International Airport buzzed with activity. Among the crowd, a young mother desperately tried to control her 2 toddlers while searching for her documents. Charles, Mary, stay close, please, she pleaded as the youngest ran towards the seats and the girl tugged at her skirt. A woman with wavy brown hair approached, kneeling beside the boy. Hello, little friend. Are you playing hide-and-seek with your mom? Amelia asked with a warm smile. I think she's worried because she can't see you. The little boy nodded, allowing Amelia to take his hand and lead him back to his mother. Thank you, madam. I'm alone with them, and it's so difficult. The young mother sighed in relief. Allow me to help you, a tall man intervened, joining them and carrying the suitcases the woman had left unattended. My wife and I know how complicated traveling with children can be. Alexander placed the suitcases on a trolley, while Amelia helped the woman organize her documents. A few meters away, Eleanor watched the scene from her wheelchair with a nostalgic smile. My husband is waiting for us in Edinburgh. It's the first time I've traveled alone with the children, the woman explained, now calmer. We'll accompany you to the boarding gate, Amelia offered. Right, Alexander? When the family finally boarded their flight, the 3 returned to the airport VIP lounge. Some things never change, do they? Eleanor commented, taking Amelia's hand, where not only the family brooch, but also a simple wedding ring shone. You're still the same airport angel. Now I understand why that brooch ended up with me, Amelia smiled. It wasn't a coincidence. The reconciliation had come gradually. After London, they started as colleagues, collaborating on projects remotely. Alexander traveled frequently to Liverpool and Amelia occasionally to London. Their professional encounters transformed into dinners, long conversations, and a renewed mutual understanding. 6 months later, during the inauguration of a community center in a small community on the border between England and Scotland, Alexander had proposed marriage without a ring or grand gestures, just with sincere words, as both rested after a day's work. The wedding was simple, celebrated in the community garden of the first project they had developed together in Liverpool. Attendees ranged from businessmen and politicians to the families benefiting from their programs. Now they jointly directed the Hope Sterling Foundation, with branches in 5 countries. Alexander divided his time between overseeing some family businesses and community work, while Amelia led the expansion of their social development models. Eleanor had sold the family mansion to move into a smaller, cozier house, from where she honorarily presided over the foundation. "Our flight to Edinburgh is boarding now," Alexander's voice announced. "I still can't believe they built 20 community centers in a year," Eleanor commented proudly. "And it's just the beginning," Amelia replied. "The model is replicating even without our direct intervention." As they walked towards the boarding gate, Amelia paused for a moment, observing the airport bustle. "What are you thinking about?" Alexander asked, taking her hand. "How a simple act of kindness can trigger something so big," she replied, gently squeezing his fingers. "If I hadn't stopped to help a lonely old woman." "The brooch always finds its way," Eleanor intervened with an enigmatic smile. "Just like people destined to meet." A voice announced the final call for their flight. Alexander pushed Eleanor's wheelchair while Amelia walked by his side. A family united not by obligation, but by choice, by a shared purpose, and a love built on common values. "Who are you?" the young mother had asked before boarding her plane, intrigued by the kindness of these strangers. Amelia had smiled, gently touching the brooch on her blouse. "Just someone who learned that sometimes a small act of kindness at an airport can change an entire life." As they boarded their own flight, Alexander gently kissed Amelia's hand. "Do you know what's the best part of our story?" "What?" she asked, looking at him curiously. "That it's just beginning.